What was that smell? The metallic warmth he recognized as blood. He knew the scent well. In his gut he knew it was his own. Yet there was another odor not completely familiar. Why was this the important part? Why was his mind focusing on that facet of the situation instead of any of the others? It was dark. No, he was blindfolded. Very tightly blindfolded with something heavy, thick, and soft that no light or even shadow could make it through. He was unable to move. Bound? No. He felt no digging, no cutting pain in his wrists or ankles, and yet he was unable to make them budge. It was as though his limbs were made numb to his desires. Numb. The smell, he remembered. He had experienced that odor once before when a person was receiving aid for some massive injury, and the doctor had used it to keep them from feeling any pain during the procedure. Numb. That explains the inability to make anything work. But why? Why made unfeeling and why blindfolded? He tried to make a fist, touch his fingers together, curl his toes, but nothing. This was really good stuff. If he was moving any part of his body, he couldn't tell. That sound, he hadn't quite noticed until now. A quiet shuffling, soft digging. He took a deep breath, glad to feel his lungs and chest move. He tested his jaw, nose, neck. All were in working order. He moved his eyes as best he could under the blindfold. Good. Those worked too.
Who's there? I know you're there, I can hear you. Answer me.
A slight pressure was on his chest as something was rested there. Something of weight and purpose. The pressure shifted and slid up toward Dyer's neck. A cold, heavy object rested across his trachea.
If you're gonna kill me, just do it. Or let me up and I'll kick your ass.
The pressure lifted.
You have done more harm than good.
That voice. No.
Oh, no. Mac?
Yes.
Dyer felt his own heart race. His breathing became rapid and shallow. He tried to turn away, turn over, anything.
Oh, God.
Then he stopped. Caught his breath, barely.
What are you doing to me?
A span of time equal to the time it takes to end the life of someone who's bleeding out.
What you deserve.
James fell back down, physically and emotionally.
I have crafted a makeshift timer. Using sand, some weighted pieces, and some containers. When the sand runs out, the procedural effect I am timing will come to an end.
Oh, sand. Falling into something, maybe a pan? The heaviness around his eyes was being lifted a bit. It had been loosened. James tested this by shaking his head slightly.
If you wish.
Mackenzie's voice was calm, almost comforting, but there was a feeling of foreboding, concern, and dread.
Go ahead.
James paused only a moment and then shook his head determinedly. The thick, soft blindfold shifted and spun, sliding down his face enough for him to finally see. This place was mostly dark, except for where James lay. Just outside that area of light, he could barely make out the shadowed form of Mackenzie Tierson, standing with his Tesla rod in both hands, horizontal across his waist. Next to the father figure of Deadmas was a sturdy wooden table, with many familiar tools from the workbench where Mackenzie had repaired James's armor when they had first met. Next to those tools were an assortment of doctoring implements. Small blades, saws, things to pry you open, things to sew you shut.
The procedural effect that is being timed is the numbing agent that I'm sure you've noticed.
James Dyer would not take his eye off Mackenzie. He hung on his every word.
What do you deserve?
Those words were concise and enormous in their unspoken dread.
You have brought arms against those you were allied with, even when your mind was your own.
James felt too many strange, cold things crawl up his spine.
You have sat or slept while others died.
These are true.
You have not stood in support when the cause was there in front of you.
Shame followed the cold things.
So, since you have brought arms against mine, and since you refuse to use your legs to stand, I have taken them.
The shushing sound stopped. The pain was overwhelming. As he screamed, James looked down to see that Mackenzie had taken away both his arms and his legs, had sawed them off at the base, and his blood was everywhere. Whatever numbing agent held the secret from him faded away, and he screamed louder, shock and pain redoubling their efforts to agonize him.